You don't need to understand everything right now. If you're listening to this, there's a good chance your mind feels crowded. Too many thoughts, too many decisions, too many unfinished loops running in the background. And maybe you've noticed something confusing. The more you think about fixing your life, the heavier everything feels. So let's slow this down together. Not to solve anything, not to improve anything, just to meet this moment honestly. You're not lazy for feeling stuck. You're not broken because your motivation disappeared. And you're not failing because clarity feels out of reach. What you're experiencing makes sense. When life has demanded too much for too long, the mind doesn't become sharper. It becomes louder. You replay conversations. You overanalyze small choices. You think about the future in fragments, never fully, never calmly. And at the same time, you avoid thinking at all, because it feels exhausting. That tension between thinking too much and not wanting to think at all can be deeply unsettling. You might tell yourself, I just need to figure this out. If I could think clearly, I'd be fine. If I stop thinking, everything will fall apart. But what if the opposite is closer to the truth? What if thinking less is not avoidance, but relief, not giving up, but giving your nervous system a chance to breathe? When you're overwhelmed, your mind isn't trying to help you plan. It's trying to protect you. Your brain is scanning for threats, deadlines, expectations, the fear of falling behind, the fear of wasting time, the fear that rest means losing momentum forever. In that state, thinking becomes reactive, fast, circular, unkind. No insight comes from there. Only pressure. And pressure does not produce clarity. It produces noise. This is why thinking harder doesn't help right now. Because your system isn't asking for answers. It's asking for safety. When you reduce thinking, even slightly, something subtle happens. Your shoulders drop. Your breath slows. The inner critic quiets not because it's been defeated, but because it no longer feels needed. Less thinking creates space. And space is where clarity returns on its own. You may have noticed this before, without realizing it. Moments when you stopped trying, stopped analyzing, stopped forcing solutions. Maybe while showering, walking, staring out a window, doing something simple and repetitive. Suddenly, a thought arrived, not urgent, not loud, just clear. That wasn't an accident. That's how the mind works. When it's allowed to rest, thinking less doesn't mean becoming careless. It means trusting that your intelligence doesn't disappear when you pause. Right now, your mind might feel like it's holding everything together by force. Like if you loosen your grip, everything will collapse. But notice this. Gently. Has the constant thinking actually made things easier? Or has it only kept you tense? You don't need to answer that. Just let the question exist. Burnout convinces people that effort equals control, that if you stop pushing, you'll lose ground. But burnout is what happens when effort never gets to turn off. Your system becomes exhausted, not from doing too little, but from never feeling safe enough to stop. So, when you think less, you're not quitting on yourself. You're signaling safety, and safety is what allows the mind to reorganize. This is why avoidance and procrastination often show up together. Not because you don't care, but because caring has become overwhelming. Your system learned that thinking leads to pressure, so it pulls away. That's not failure. That's self-protection, and protection doesn't need to be punished. It needs to be understood. You're allowed to not know right now. You're allowed to pause without a plan. You're allowed to rest without justifying it. Nothing bad happens when you think less for a while. In fact, something important happens. Your sense of self starts to come back. Not the version of you that performs, not the version that keeps up, but the quieter version that can feel, choose, and respond. Motivation doesn't come from pressure. It comes from relief. When the noise drops, even a little, you begin to feel what matters again. Not as a to-do list, but as a gentle pull. You don't need to chase that pull. You don't need to act on it immediately. Just notice that it exists. That's enough. You're not behind. You're not wasting time. You're recalibrating. Thinking less is not the absence of care. It's the return of trust. Trust that you don't need to solve everything today. Trust that your mind knows how to find clarity when it's not being pushed. Trust that rest is not a detour, it's part of the path. You can let this moment be unfinished. You can leave questions unanswered. You can stop reaching for certainty. Nothing needs to be resolved right now. Just allow the quiet to do its work. And if all you take from this is a small sense of relief, a softening, a sense that you're allowed to be where you are, that's enough. You don't need to think your way forward. Sometimes, the most intelligent thing you can do is let the thinking rest, and when you're ready, clarity will meet you there. No rush, no pressure, just space.